Hey, good afternoon. Wanted to, first of all, welcome you to week two of Speech 1113. Really happy that you're still with me. And I wanted to say that I was really impressed with a lot of the stuff that I saw last week. So we did a great job on our discussions. We had a pretty good time with the introduction, I think. I did, anyway. We also had some really good responses to the attention discussion post. I will say that when we're responding to those, though, be sure that you are responding to the topic and not necessarily to the other student's example response. So be sure that everything is on topic and that you're adding to the discussion and not just agreeing with the person. So what are we doing this week? It's a good question. We have a couple of ways to find out. And I'll show you a couple different ways to get there. The first way is to click on the schedule icon on the home page of our course. If we click on that, what it'll do is it'll open up our schedule that has each one of our weeks listed down the left-hand side of the page. It also has the associated date with that week and the modules that we're covering within the online classroom. It'll have the chapters that we're reading, as well as any activities or assignments that we have due during that time. The links on this page are active, so if you click on, say for instance, the narrative evaluation sheet, it'll open up the narrative evaluation sheet, and you can kind of peruse through this and see exactly what it is that I'm going to be looking at whenever I grade your speech. So you can see that there's quite a few different areas that I'm looking at, and it helps out if you know in advance what I'm looking for rather than guessing and possibly guessing wrong. So the other way to get to what we're doing this week is by going to content. This content is always available to you. It's in Module 0, the introduction to the course. In here we have some important information, but of particular importance to what we're talking about right now is the Speech 1113 summer schedule. We click on that, it takes us to the exact same document that we were talking about before. All right? So we have a speech due, and there have been quite a few questions about, well, what exactly are you looking for in the narrative speech? I don't know, what you want me to talk about, how long is it? And they're all decent questions. The way that we find that out is actually by clicking on the syllabus icon on our home screen. If we click there and then we go down to page 6 of 10, what we'll see is the write-up for this assignment. And so basically it gives you the point value, it gives you what it is that you're supposed to be talking about. In this case, for the narrative speech, it's a life experience that you learn something from. And then it also talks about the time limit, which is 2 to 5 minutes. Now, if you go over 5 minutes, by a little bit, not a huge deal. I'm not quite as strict as what this page says. So if you go, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, I'm not going to dock you and give you a C. However, if it's 15 minutes long, we'll probably have a discussion about maybe, subsequent speeches. So try to stick with the time limit if at all possible. The other thing is that each one of your speeches in this class are going to be extemporaneous speeches. This is important, and this is one thing that a lot of students have trouble with. Extemporaneous means that it's basically on the fly, off the cuff, not script read. It's from basically limited or no notes. I would suggest probably using notes. Notes help me out, help guide me through a speech. They'll help you out too. I will say though that the notes that you use, you'll probably want to use, 3x5 chords. If you don't have those, heck, even post-it notes will work. Just something that you can write out, bullet points, to help guide you through your speech. That way you don't get lost. That way you can keep on track. What a lot of students will do, and the temptation is to print out their notes on a standard letter size sheet of paper. And so then throughout their speech, they're holding this piece of paper, and it's incredibly distracting because they don't know what to do with it after that point. It flips all over the place. And then if they're nervous, it wiggles, and it makes a lot of noise. Don't do this, okay? Stick with the the little note cards, stick with the 3x5s. It makes it unobtrusive, and it keeps you on task. So the other assignment that we'll have is the video self-analysis. Where do I find information about that? Again, I'm glad you asked. It's actually in the syllabus as well. And if we scroll down to page 10 of 10, we'll notice that there's a block on the video self-analysis. It says that each one of these are worth 25 points, that there are 4 of them, so you'll have one for your narrative, for your biography, for your informative, and for your persuasive. And it's basically a short paper. It doesn't have to be, War and Peace. It just needs to be 1 or 2 pages, and it needs to, discuss how you think you did on your speech. So once you upload your speech to Tegrity, you'll review that speech, and you'll kind of look and see what I did well. So I want you to pick 3 things that you did really good on, and I want you to talk about those. And then I also want you to pick 3 things that you could definitely use improvement on. And the main purpose of this is not so much for me. I don't want to read a whole bunch of papers, but at the same time, what I like seeing is that people are watching their speech, and that they're watching their mannerisms, and they're watching the way that they deliver, and that they're then taking that information and they're learning from it, and they're growing from it, and they're developing. So that's not to say that don't spell check your paper or anything like that, and don't use complete sentences. It's not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying, though, is that the content of the paper is subjective. It's you. And so there's no right or wrong answers to this. Don't worry about that. I just want you to evaluate your performance and point out 3 strengths, 3 weaknesses, and discuss them. Okay? Does that make sense? So if you have any questions on it, please feel free to email or call, whatever. The last question that I've been getting quite a bit is, recording. How do I record my speech? The answer to that's simple as well. I would like for all of you to record your speech using Tegrity. And how you do this is you actually come down here and you click on the Tegrity Classroom, and it'll take you to the Tegrity site, and there's a big gigantic blue button over here that says Start a Recording. And so when you click on that button, more than likely what will happen the first time is it will install a lightweight program on your machine called TegRunner. Takes a couple of minutes to download tops, and then afterwards a box will pop up that has basically a spot where you can select the class as well as the title of your speech. I would probably stick with your last name and the whatever speech we're working on. So say Buttafuoco and narrative or whatever. I don't know why I picked Buttafuoco, that's weird. Anyway, once you do that, the next thing that you'll want to do, which is very, very important, is click or check mark the little box that says Instructor Video. And so make sure that that's check marked. You'll see that your webcam will fire up, and your image will be in that screen as well. And so you'll see yourself moving around. And once you see all that, then you hit Start a Recording, and it'll count you down. You can record, and basically what happens then is that your webcam is recorded and everything that's on your screen is recorded as well. Why is this important? Because the PowerPoint that you're showing on your screen, that's your visual aid for, well, not this speech because you don't need a visual aid, but later on down the line for our other speeches, we'll need a visual aid, and this counts. Okay. Also, it's also important because in times past, I've had students that have had backgrounds that maybe weren't necessarily appropriate, and I don't necessarily need to see inappropriate backgrounds. So keep that in mind whenever you're recording your speech as well. So I think that just about does it for instructions and sort of what we're doing this week. We have a quiz as well, but you guys have already taken a couple of those, so you're like professionals now. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate to call me, email me, heck, stop by my office. But be sure and set that up, because I am out and about quite a bit, and I would hate to miss you if you came to campus. So if there's nothing else, if you don't need me, you don't need me. If you do, I'm here. Have a great week.